Well, I'm down at Fewel wildlife area fishing for bluegill. This was my first cast, and these bluegill in here often go over 9 inches. This one's probably 8.5 here, but it's September 28th. I'm all by myself with my little kayak, and we're planning on having some fun. There's my second bluegill. He's a little bigger. He might be 8 3/4 inches or so. But they're really busting right out in the middle of the lake. This is what this little lake looks like that I'm fishing. It's a beautiful, beautiful little lake. It's got like 25 foot of water in it. The coontail comes up within, if you're in 7 or 8 foot of water, you can see the coontail. So you have to fish pretty much in the middle of the pond. Now this is not one of the bigger ones, but you can see that even the small ones cover your entire hand. There's some beautiful bluegill in here. This is what happens if you get too deep. Your lure gets hung up in that. Now this fish is the female. Notice that instead of having the purple on there, she's got a lot of gold and a lot of yellow, and they get a lot bigger than the males. This one's probably 8.5, maybe close to 9 inches. Another female. And we're still putting them in. This is another female. I think this is the 6th or 7th one I've caught. I've decided just to take a picture of every one I catch. This is another female. Seemed like the males were up in the upper end and the females are down here. I'm down toward the lower end now. I'm using grasshoppers for bait. I intended to use some crickets. I never used crickets before. And then I decided, well, I'll use night crawlers or gulp worms, because this time of the year they're so deep it's hard to catch them on lures. And I forgot to bring the wheels to my kayak, and so I had to drag this kayak on the ground for a half a quarter, and it weighs about 90 pounds fully loaded. And on the way I saw these grasshoppers. I stopped and caught them, and this is what I'm catching on them. Alright, there's another one coming in. I think he's not quite as big as I've been catching, but he's still a big bluegill for where I'm from. You're only allowed 20 of these, so I'm getting right along. There he is. Another bluegill waiting to go in the cooler. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Well, this sure is a funny looking bluegill. Got a little bass that decided that he liked grasshoppers too. That's the first one I've tried to retrieve. I've been catching them on the drop. As soon as I started retrieving them, my species changed. This would be considered a big bluegill most places I fish, but he's going to get turned back. He's only about 7 inches long. This fish only measures 8.5 inches long, but he's almost square. Look how square he is. My goodness. What a bluegill. Alright, another female. Pretty nice bluegill, about 8.5. And she came off the hook and fell in the middle of the kayak. Well, I want to prove to you that there's still some babies in here. This little guy's more like 5 inches long, but he was fun too. Nice old tree. Haven't caught a thing around it. The bluegill are simply right out in the open. There's the spillway. And swing on around, they got what they, I guess, was a dock at one time way down there. But where that patch of bushes are, in the middle is where I pulled the boat to. I had to pull it from way over behind those trees. Most of my fish down there where all those trees are. And I moved up here, which was a mistake because all I've caught's a couple little ones. So I'm going to go back down there. There's some trees under the water if you know where they're at. I've hung up and broke off twice, but I'm just going to have to do it anyway. Well, I'm having to run this left-handed, but you see that little fish coming out? This is right square in the middle of the pond. It's probably 25 feet deep here. And that's why it's so slow and time-consuming to catch these things. You got to wait and wait. All right, here's another big bull. He's close to 9 inches. Right in the middle of the lake. 2 in a row I've caught here. And he got hung up in a tree. This is the biggest bluegill I've caught. This is 3 in a row I've caught. Right in the middle, absolute center of the lake. Throw it and let it go to the bottom. This is a big female. She's 9 inches long. This is another 9-incher. My 4th fish on 4 casts. 9-inch bluegill. Dead center in the middle of the lake. Well, I missed a cast and then made this cast and caught this big bull. I'm not in position to measure him, but he's probably as big as those females. He may be a little shorter, but he's a lot wider. Well, as you can see by my line of flipping there, I think you can see it. There it is. I'm hung up, square in the middle of the lake. There's trees out in the middle of this. Unbelievable place to fish. Alright, here's my biggest bluegill of the day. I don't know how much he'll weigh, but he's big. Goes all the way across my tackle box. Big old bull. This water is just glass smooth like a mirror, and you have to sit in the kayak real still so you don't make any waves, and spend as little time with the paddle in the water as you can. Anything will spook these things. Sometimes you just have to sit for about 3 or 4 minutes before you cast. I threw over there by that tree, caught the biggest female bluegill of the day, and I was so proud of her. I got the camera ready and I stuck her out over the water to get a good picture of her. She gave a flip and broke my line. But that's a picture of where she would have been if she hadn't got away. Now then I get to take a picture out in front of that tree. This is a male. The other one was a female. There is a whopper. Maybe the biggest fish of the day. That fish hung me up. I went in to break my line off and saw that he was on there. Worked it around. Can't get him to turn here where you can see him good. I'm going to do a little bit more fishing and turn them loose and call it a day. I wanted to try a little bit of night crawlers while I was up here because I was out of grasshoppers. And would you look at that? My. What a fish.